Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're so glad to have you. We'll be just getting set up in the next few minutes, but it's so nice to see everybody joined in. Welcome, welcome. I'm just gonna make sure all of our cameras are set up. Okay. And can you hear us okay? Carl, will you?
Hello, hello.
All right. Thanks, Elise. I'm just gonna get our close-up camera set up as well. I'm just gonna mute a couple of folks just for a second. Okay, well, we'll give it a few more minutes. I just want to make sure we're all set up, but we're so glad to see you all here. Excited to cook some amazing meals together. So we'll give it until about 3 o'clock. Has anyone not taken a class with us before? I see some familiar faces. Feel free to use the chat. I'll be collecting all the comments and additions to the conversation as we go through the class, but I would love to hear from you if this is your first time ever doing a class with us, or if I know some of you have taken classes with us, so let me know. Christopher says, first time here, looking forward to it. So glad, Christopher. Well, everyone will be cooking at their own pace, but we've got recipe cards and we'll walk you through it, so you won't be alone. And it's always amazing to see how all the recipes turn out for everybody. And it's kind of like a magical thing to have the same recipes being made, and we've got 24 households that are cooking with us today. So I'll be curious to see video or any photos of your dishes. Anybody cooking with another person? I'm always curious to see how many people are actually attending the class. Oh, I see two, Sherry. I see two, Elise. Aw, so glad. DHS waved their hand too. Well, this will be great. So, and we have our amazing instructor, Carl Reisman. So
Hello.
he's going to be teaching, he's coming back to teach more classes. So Carl has been teaching classes during our co-op basement days, or at the original location.
Yes.
And we're so excited to have him back for a virtual class, and we'll be talking more about scheduling some in-person classes with him, hopefully this summer or fall. But I think we will get started soon. Let me just double check on our numbers. I know a couple more people will be joining us shortly, but I thought I would introduce myself first. So hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Buckman, and I'm part of our marketing team here at Common Ground, as well as help with coordinating our education programming. So we're so excited to have you all here today for our Springtime Soup and Spanakopita class. I believe you all met my amazing coworker Liz yesterday. She helps with all of the behind the scenes with packing and ordering. So it's so great to have you all here. we do a lot of different types of cooking classes at the co-op. Usually cultural cuisines or cooking classes that involve featuring like seasonal or local ingredients. And one of the things I love the most about my job is these classes and working with amazing people like Carl, different community members that want to share different recipes with us and with the community. So I'm so glad that we're able to share this Saturday and cook some amazing recipes. While we would love to have you all in the kitchen with us today, we kind of will be, and you'll be able to enjoy the full recipes and be able to eat the full recipes today using the meal kit. So I just wanted, I think we've got a lot more folks, so welcome. I wanted to ask again, is there anyone that hasn't taken a class with us before? Feel free, if you don't mind, just drop it into the chat. We'll be using the chat for the most part today, just so that I can assess the comments while we're in the middle of cooking. And that way, so yeah, we would love to make this as interactive as possible. So if there's questions that come up with the recipes or you want to add to the conversation, we would love that. So DHS, first time. Okay, well, great. And I see some familiar faces. So thanks to all of you that signed up today. We really are so glad to have you. And so I would love to introduce our amazing instructor, Carl Reisman.
Hello.
Yeah.
So my name is Carl Reisman. I was a professional cook for about 12 years or so. I worked over at, started cooking in New Orleans. I cooked at Strawberry Fields and was the bakery and deli manager there and a New Pioneer Co-op. And been a member of the Common Ground since about 1983 or so.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And we started in 1974, so you've been with us.
I don't even know what it was like in 1974, because 1983 it was I don't think there were even refrigerators yet. Plus, it's been pretty much a buying club.
I think 1974 was when someone had a bus that went up to Wisconsin for some tofu and some bulk brown rice. But yeah, I think definitely when you were there, it was when it was really kind of forming. So it's so cool to have, and we'll have to talk if there's any questions that you have about the co-op days. We're happy to ask Carl. But yeah, we're so glad to have you here, Carl. Do you want to share a little bit about what the menu is today?
Sure. So the overview is we're going to do things in reverse order. We're going to start with the apple tart, and then we're going to make spanakopita, and then we're going to finish with the white bean soup. And the apple tart is a little different than a pie. So with a tart, there's less fruit. This crust is a sweeter crust than almost like a cookie crust. And so that's where we're gonna move from here. The spanakopita is pretty typical Greek food. Go to a bus stop in Greece, there'll be spanakopita drying out under a heat light. You might get food poisoning from it. Might be delicious.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was so excited when Carl recommended or was talking about spanakopita. My eyes lit up because I love Greek food. So and I've been wanting to do a class where we can have we can utilize the phyllo dough because I feel like it's underutilized. So that'll be great.
Yeah, and if you get comfortable with phyllo dough, you can use it for other things like making baklava, for example, things like that. And lastly, white bean soup, and that's also just something that there's all sorts of Mediterranean forms of bean soups, Italian ones, Ribollito's one, but you can take the basic idea and vary it depending on what you've got around. So, but that's the recipe we're going to work with.
Yeah, and then we've got our oven preheated. So if you want to do that now, we've got it preheated to I think 350, and that's what we're going to use for I think the tart and is the Spanakopita are also that same temperature.
think
We'll adjust.
350 or 375, something
Okay.
like that. So a medium oven
Okay.
should be fine.
And then we have everything portioned out for you. So if this is the first time that you've done a class with us, we have everything kind of ready to go for you. I think even the salt. There's sometimes when things
Down to
are
a single bay leaf.
exactly. So we have
Yeah.
everything kind of ready to go for you. So we'll make sure, since we're doing this as a group, to kind of check in and see how you're doing. But since we're doing the tart first, do you want to talk about what kind of equipment they'll need and what kind of pans they'll need? And I'll make sure that I get a close up of some of these items.
Sure. So what we've got assembled here for this mixing bowl, I'm using a cast iron pan, but you could use a pie dish. I've got a food processor here for making the pastry. You could use a grater if you wanted to use that for grating the butter. You could even cut it up with a knife. We're using a food processor because it's just easier. You're less likely to grate your knuckles.
Yeah.
And that's got a rolling pin. You've got a piece of parchment paper for rolling out the pastry. And I think we've got a pastry brush for the end when we're putting on our glaze here.
Yeah.
And a peeler.
A peeler.
And a knife, hopefully a decent knife. And you'll need a cutting board too.
Okay.
So that's where we're starting with here.
So let me know in the chat if there's anyone that doesn't have a food processor. The grater will work just fine. And I use the graters at home when I'm making crusts because it allows you to not touch the butter as much, keep it as cold as possible. So there are ways that we can definitely modify or give it recommendations if there's something that you don't have. So we can talk it out.
Right.
Okay. Any questions so far? So we're going to start with the tart, and then we're going to move the Spanakopita, and then we'll make the soup. And so there'll be a lot of little steps along the way, but we're glad to have you. So there's a couple people that say they only have they don't have a food processor or only have a mini food processor. So we can just make sure that as we're working on different recipes, we'll let them know. So you'll probably just need a bowl and a grater.
Yeah, so I'm gonna demonstrate both ways. So just for people who just have a grater, there's a grater here. Let's put our dry ingredients into a bowl here.
Perfect. I'm just gonna send one more link to someone that needs it.
Okay, this is for the crust. So we've got the flour. We've got half a cup of sugar. And quarter teaspoon of salt. Goes into there. Okay. And I'm just going to use my hands hands are a very useful tool for mixing things together. So you could use a spat or a whisk too, if you have it. I'm just going to mix it up like this. Okay. Butter. So for those of you who are going to use a grater for the butter, I'm just going to take a little bit of it just to show you that way. I'm going to put it in the butter in the flour a little bit, and we're just grating it like this. And you just want to make sure you don't grate your hands.
And I'll get a close up on this in just a second.
Okay. So, like so.
Okay,
Okay.
so just grated some of that butter up with the flour and,
That's,
okay.
and for those of you who are proceeding with a food processor, if you don't have a food processor, just grate the whole entire stick.
Okay, but they could just put the chunks, put everything into the food processor and get that.
Right. For those of you guys who are using a food processor, I'm cutting the butter up like so. It's like little
Cubes.
cubes. And we're gonna put it into here.
Okay.
All right. Like so. And I'm just gonna mix this a little bit before we put it into the food processor.
Mhm.
And let's,
Let this open this up for you.
lovely assistance, opening that up. Thank you. All right.
So we're really just trying to break up the chunks of butter a little bit more without warming it up too much.
Right. Okay. And we've got, for a liquid here, we're using 1 whole egg plus a yolk.
Okay.
So for the egg, let's take an egg, crack it. If you, oops,
Oh,
we'll put
nice.
it in there. So I'm,
I'll get you a compost bowl if you
thank
like.
you.
Scrap bowl. if you like.
Okay.
Do you recommend cracking the eggs into a bowl first and
If
then?
you cracked it directly into here and you got shell in there, then you have to try to fish the shell out.
Totally. So
So
we're gonna crack the whole egg into the small bowl.
we'll just put this in here because we
Okay.
don't have any shell in there.
Okay.
And then we're gonna separate this. So
Do they want the yolk or just the whites?
we're doing the yolk, I believe here.
great.
So we're gonna hang on to the white.
Okay.
We'll use it for the Spanakopita,
Okay.
even though it's doesn't call for it, but we have extra, so
That sounds great.
so there you
You're just kind
go.
of sieving it with your fingers.
There you go. Which is actually a very efficient way to do it.
Yeah. So again, we just, for those that didn't have the food processor, we just grated the butter. You'll grate the entire stick, and then add it with your flour. And then, one whole egg, and then just a yolk of the second egg. And then we'll save the whites from the second egg.
Save that.
We'll save it and we'll use it. Nothing goes to waste, so we'll we'll use it for the Spanakopita.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody good so far?
Okay. And with this,
No sugar or anything?
I think we put the sugar in already.
Oh, did we? Okay.
I think so.
Okay, we
So,
put one of
yeah,
the
we got
half
this.
cups of sugar.
Yes. So just to,
Perfect.
yep, our sugar is here. So,
Okay.
yep, that went in.
Great.
So let's see if we can get this to work. Okay.
We're just gonna
Gonna
pulse
pulse
it.
And we'll see how it does. It may need some water. So we'll see how this tightens up.
Ours is looking really crumbly.
Yeah, it looks a little crumbly. And we're gonna put this into our plastic. Oops. There we go. So we have a plastic bag over here.
We might have one.
Yeah.
So we're putting it into, if you have like a produce bag, or you could put it back into a bowl. Are you just trying to form it together?
What we're gonna do is let it sit
Okay.
while we do the rest of this. We'll
Okay.
refrigerate this.
Okay, cool. So if you have a produce bag, that's what we're using. And we're just kind of it's still pretty crumbly, but we're thinking it will start to hydrate more. And once we put it into cool,
Yeah, we're gonna refrigerate it.
that's great.
Okay.
If you don't have a bag, you can just put it into the bowl and refrigerate it. Does that work?
I
or-
recommend a bag.
Bag, okay.
Yeah,
So like a gallon bag or,
yeah, if you got it, something like that.
sounds good. All right.
Okay. Oop. Okay.
Okay,
part two.
so we've got our crust already. Ooh, our timer for our oven went off, so I'm gonna reset it. Okay, so we've got our crust in the fridge. We've got our oven preheating,
Okay,
and I think we're moving on to the next step, which would be peeling our apples.
yep, I'm gonna peel our apples.
Elise said, give us a few minutes to catch up.
Okay,
No problem.
all right, you guys
We'll
give me questions while folks.
yeah, maybe you wanna, is there a story you could tell about? You said you did classes with at the co-op. What were some of the classes that you did in the olden days?
We did bread baking, I remember, and then an introduction to vegetarian cooking.
Okay,
So those were two that I remember teaching over there.
okay, that sounds great. Yeah, and this is like a perfect vegetarian meal. I feel like these recipes are just so good for March when it's still a little cool and.
So I challenge you.
Oh my goodness, make some garland. Everybody can make their apple garland for the holidays. And I had a guinea pig as a kid, and that was his like favorite food.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he loved apple peel for some reason. So we'll let everybody catch up. So I'll go through some of the steps again. So we're just pulsing the crust in the food processor. Otherwise, you'll be putting all those ingredients for the crust in the bowl, and then we set it in a bag in the fridge.
Mhm.
And then we're just working on peeling our apples, just taking all the skin off. Let me know. Let me know if you have any
Need
questions.
that ice water when pulsing. I don't think.
So Shari says, do we need to add ice water when pulsing? Seems way too dry. Ours did too. Ours seemed very crumbly, but
So what I possibly. So what I'd say is put it in a bag, refrigerate it, and we're gonna see how that does, how it rolls out. With a pastry, like a pie crust, you would do that, but this is really closer to a cookie dough, and cookie doughs, you don't need ice water in there.
okay.
So we'll see. If we need it, we'll put it in, but it's okay for it to be dry right now.
Yeah, so it maybe will give sometimes the more you work the crust, the more like crunchy or tough it can get. So this might be actually help us get a nice fluffy crust.
Yeah.
Elise said ours was sand texture. So I think ours was
What's that?
she said ours was sand textured.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's okay.
We'll add water if we need to once
Yeah, we're gonna see how this works out.
well. You're a magician with this. So you said you have some stories from when you were cooking in New Orleans. When were you cooking as a were you a prep cook, or how did you get that job there when you were in New Orleans?
I was working, I was 20 years old, and I was looking for work, but I cooked a little bit in college, but I didn't really think about cooking down in New Orleans because seemed like I really didn't have the skills. But I was at a bar, and I had a roommate who was speaking French to try to impress a girl there. And there was a cook from our nose there who was drunk, and he heard my roommate talking French, and he said, "Oh, you should apply for a job at our nose," which is an old French Quarter restaurant.
Oh.
And my roommate already had a job guarding Mardi Gras parades.
Oh, really?
So he said that told him that he had a roommate who was a cook, and I went in there the next day and talked to the chef, and he put me on the night shift. and they gave me a big, they gave me probably about $1,000 worth of fish to clean.
Oh my gosh.
And not only had I never learned how to do that, I didn't grow up fishing. And so I started just trying to fillet these fish without anyone showing me how to do it. And then the chef came around to see how I was doing.
Will you show them what you're
Oh,
doing?
yeah.
So sorry to pause.
So
For the apple,
so for apples, you want to, what you're trying to do is not trying to work around the core, the part that's not edible. If there's a little skin, that's not a big deal, but the very center of the apple is not very, is pretty woody. So
you got some
yeah,
chunks that we'll slice up eventually, but just
Yeah.
taking the core out.
yeah. So that's what we're doing with the apples.
Okay. So some of you have 4 apples, some of you have 5 because I threw in an extra apple because one of them were smaller. So you'll use all of your apples peeled and then avoid the core by slicing around it. And how should they slice the apples for the tart?
Okay. Well, this is how I slice. So you want them to be like about this thickness.
Okay, so maybe like a 1/4 inch thinness,
Or
And-
probably a little thinner than that.
then like maybe 1/8.
Yeah.
That's great. And you're using the flattened side of the apple on
Right.
the cutting
we're
board
putting
so
it
it
flat
gets
and side down. And if you're looking at my hands, I'm using this part of my hand for my fingertips are curled in. You never want to have your fingers tips out like this, or you risk cutting them. You can rock the knife on the board like that. That's a good way to start. If you're in a restaurant and you're doing that, that's too slow, so you want to go like this. But we're not trying to show off here. I'm just trying to show you. And this is good. It's a good technique to learn for all sorts of slicing. You always want your fingertips to be curled in
Mhm.
and resting the knife on this part of your hand. And make sure you have control over it and your knife's sharp.
And you've done such a good job. All of his apples slices are about the same thinness, which will really help when it comes to cooking it and making sure that they're all evenly cooking at the same time.
Mhm. Anyway, to finish
But
up the
yeah,
fish story,
so I love
The-
hearing that.
the chef came over and yelled, "You know nothing, nothing."
Oh God.
And he didn't fire me. He put me on the day shift where I could work with the sous chef and he could teach me how to do the most basic things, including what I'm showing you now, just how to slice things. And to including he would give me a 50-pound bag of onions to slice.
Oh
And,
my gosh.
That
Would you
kind
be
of thing.
crying or no?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
You'd always be trying.
You know nothing. Oh, that would have been.
Yeah.
That was like your first day, right? But that's a lot of fish
Well,
was it just all different types of fish that they were working with?
Yeah. from the Gulf of Mexico. So they would get
Yeah.
fresh fish in, get pompano and redfish. And,
Wow.
but yeah, I mean, he was trying to see what I knew, but he assumed I knew more than I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, look at you now.
Yeah.
Learned a lot.
So,
Okay, so we got all of our apples. Feel
that's,
free to take, work at your own pace. We'll be here
that's our
for
apples.
you. So we're gonna put all the apples in a bowl.
Thank you.
Yeah. My mom's known for her apple pies. She's a pie
Oh,
lady.
yeah. So the difference between this recipe and a pie is you would have more fruit in a pie
Mm-hmm.
and you would not, and you have a different pastry. You wouldn't have a sweet pastry.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So how are you guys doing with the slicing part?
I
Any,
hope you don't mind. I'm gonna take one.
oh no, Gotta eat, see if they're good.
Hmm.
Okay. And these were kilos?
I
What were
think,
these?
I think these were Fuji.
These were Fuji's, okay.
So there's
so
a
big.
couple, yeah, they were.
Yeah,
There's a couple of people that say they're peeling with a knife or just starting the apple. So
okay, peeling with a knife that's trickier.
I know.
Yeah, with a paring knife, you can do it, but it's still a little harder.
Yeah,
Well,
sounds
I'm
good.
gonna put some other ingredients here because it doesn't hurt for just to sit for a
Right.
minute.
That sounds good.
So we've got here, let's see, our half cup of sugar.
Okay.
That in. Oh, zest of a lemon. So
Oh yeah. I have a microplane if you need it.
you have like a zest
Oh
of
yeah.
this side.
And yeah,
So,
we've got, this is what I use. Yeah, I have a microplane at home, but I end up using the back of the
yeah,
grater and it's nice.
yeah.
So whatever you like. So we are gonna zest a little lemon for
Mhm.
the filling. So however you want. People, if they don't have a grater that has this microplane on it, so that's just the second side of the grater. You can use that if you have it. Otherwise, you probably will be using a paring knife or a peeler to get off some of the.
Yeah, with a peeler, it's tricky because it's really easy to go too deep and
Uh-huh.
get into the pith, and
Right.
that's bitter.
Uh-huh.
So the idea of zest is that oil is just in a very, very outside of a citrus fruit,
Mhm.
and that's where you're going for, and trying just to get a little bit of it
Mhm.
without going too deep. If you grate too hard, you get into the more bitter part.
Mhm. So just rotating the lemon, and we already added the half a cup of sugar. And your kitchens are gonna smell so good today. That's one of the best best things.
All right.
How's everybody doing? I'm sure you're working hard.
Okay. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So we're way behind. We're just like starting chopping apples, so it's very hard to pay attention and keep up.
Sure. We can make sure that we keep with you. So what you'll probably want to do is we'll peel all the apples and then slice them, and then we'll add some of the ingredients to the filling. But you take your time. No, there's no rush.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah. How's everybody else doing? Let me know what spot you're at. You got some thumbs up, but I'll wait to see how everyone's doing.
Okay.
Chris says on final apple.
But no, I will good job.
Um, so how long did you end up working at what was the restaurant called again?
Let's call our nose.
Arno's?
Yeah, I was there for just about 6 months,
Okay.
and then came back to Champaign, worked at some fine dining places here
Hmm.
and in Oregon. But yeah, it was. I learned that I really I preferred working not doing the line cooking kind of
Yeah.
work. It's
Mhm.
so ended up at Strawberry Fields, and those were, that's a nice cooking job by comparison.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did that for 4 years. Back when it was Strawberry Fields has had 3 locations. It was in a little house on Main Street originally.
Oh,
There was
I
a
didn't know that.
VW repair shop, and this is before my time.
Okay.
Natural Foods, and then I worked at the second location when I was on Green Street,
Okay.
and then I moved to Urbana,
Okay. Oh, I
to
didn't know that it was in
yeah.
Green Street.
back to Urbana.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
How long were you at Strawberry Fields?
So I was at Strawberry Fields for 4 years total. They I was there at the Green Street location for about 3 years and then that closed down.
Mhm.
Went to Iowa City to New Pioneer, which is
Oh,
big natural food store.
yeah. Is that a co-op?
It's a co-op,
Yeah, New
yeah.
Pioneer Co. Where was that again?
Iowa City.
Okay, yeah.
So
Yeah, we worked with them. A lot of the co-ops, because we're small but mighty, we collaborate in different ways. So they're a part of our national cooperative group that we work with. But that's cool.
yeah, so I managed the bakery and deli there.
Oh,
Came back, opened up the strawberry fields in Urbana, which had moved into a former, well, that had been an IGA at one time.
Okay.
That whole location where,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
There's someone that says, Neela says, did you already add anything else to the apples besides the lemon zest? So we added the sugar, the half a cup of sugar, and we zested the lemon and added that. It was only about, I would say like a quarter to a half teaspoon
Mm-hmm,
of lemon zest.
mm-hmm.
We do have the cinnamon. Carl's holding the cinnamon, so we will eventually put that in there. So I'll add the spotlight again for you.
Okay,
So we have all of our apples sliced about 1/8 of an inch thin. Our sugar, our cinnamon, and zest of lemon.
and a little bit of flour.
Yeah, I like the flour. That's I think with most pie recipes, they don't add flour, but this will kind of add almost like a custardy.
Yeah, well, you need, these apples may or may not have a lot of liquid, so we'll find out when we cook them. They're different that way.
Yeah.
So the flour will help thicken the liquid.
Okay.
You could use another kind of starch, but we're using this. So let's see, through like a spoon.
Yeah, of
Maybe
course.
grab
We've
one.
got some.
Oh
over
yeah, here we go.
We can get some. So you'll need a larger spoon just to mix
Or do it with their hands,
the
but
filling together.
we're
Yeah,
gonna do it this way.
sounds good. And you had thought about maybe doing this recipe with pears. Have you done that?
I
A
did.
similar recipe with pears before?
Yeah, you could do this with pears. Tricky thing with pears, and the reason we switched over to apples is because pears really would need to ripen first. And it sometimes takes like several days, and
Yeah.
just the logistics of doing that with so many people just seem complicated.
Yeah.
So-
Nothing is better than a really like juicy pear but there's times where I've had to sit like a Bartlett on the counter for almost like a week and a half for it to really like
Yeah,
get juicy and out on the counter. And if you put pears in the fridge, they'll just, they're really good as a storage crop for fruit. So they can really last quite a while. But yeah, well, I'm glad that we're using apples, and we've got so many different apples that oh yeah, I can turn that. Let's see, there we go. I'll get this turned for you. Sorry about that. Yeah. Let's see, there we go. Okay, so we mixed in our sugar, cinnamon, lemon zest, and flour.
yeah.
How's everybody doing? Anybody finished with their apples? Let me know.
We are still slicing, peeling, because we got 2 people working in one kitchen, so we may just be behind the whole time.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we take a look at our crust?
Let's take a look at the crust.
Ooh. So we'll just put the filling to the side really quick. It looks like Ed says we're done, and Jan Jay says we're about 3/4 of the way done with apples. Okay, no problem. All right, we're just taking a look at our crust. So we will eventually need some sort of pan for the crust. Carl brought his amazingly seasoned cast iron. So we'll use the cast iron for the tart. But if you have a pie pan or a glass casserole dish, we'll work with what you've got. We will need a larger, like one of your larger casserole pans or dishes for the spanakopita. So as long as you have 2 pans that can go in the oven, that will work. Okay. Elise says she's done. All right. Well, we can probably mosey on to their crust.
I'm gonna try something, you guys, and I'm gonna see how this works. Is this set up a little bit? I'm gonna just push this, instead of rolling it out, I'm gonna do this by hand,
Cool.
and
And that'll help with the crumbling. So instead of rolling it out, just pushing it into the pan.
yep,
Will they want an edge? Would they want a crust edge, you think?
we're gonna see, we're
Cool.
gonna make that happen.
Okay.
So, like I said, this is really more like a, sorry about that,
Oh, you're
more
fine.
like a cookie dough than like a pie dough.
I love that.
Very pretty color though.
It is. Is it the egg yolk?
Yep,
Okay, so we just basically dumped out the crust ball into the pan that we're going to be baking it in. And you're just trying to make sure everything's even for the most part and not
yeah.
crumbly. Everybody will get a hand workout today. And get And then I know some tart recipes say that they want their tart crust to cook first, but you don't think we'll need to do that.
I don't think we need to do that with this one.
The one change I think that Carl and I had talked about was that we're gonna wait to put the apricot glaze on the tart until it's out of the oven. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so in the recipe card, it says that we'll put the glaze on before the oven, but just wanted to make sure. Sorry. Okay, and we're gonna get one more person on. I was having trouble getting into Zoom, so I'm just gonna do that really quick.
Okay.
Jan J says, if we're using a pie dish, should we put oil or butter in the dish before putting the dough?
I don't think you're gonna need it.
Okay.
Good question.
I'm just gonna make sure one of our folks can get in. Just one moment.
Sure.
Sometimes our email, we've noticed emails have gotten a little bit more tricky, or if you send them as like a mass email,
Mhm.
some emails are so smart that they'll block them.
Nice.
So let's see. All right. All set. Okay, this is looking really good. I'll spotlight this again for us. I see Alyssa's doing a great job. I see some hands-on work.
All right,
Here,
guys.
Hit your screen. Let's see. I'll spotlight again on how Carl's doing. How's everybody else doing? I'm sure you maybe don't want to respond because your hands are buttery, but we'll make sure that there's time.
I bet there will be people out there whose crusts are prettier than mine. And it was never
Not a
a
competition, yeah.
pastry baker. but for a living anyway. But this is kind of what you were going for here for the
That's great.
tarts.
So you've got like almost like an inch on the sides, which will be great. Kind
Yeah,
of hold in the
that's kind of,
filling. That's
yeah.
beautiful.
So we were anxious about whether this would be just gonna fall apart, but you could see how it came together with a little bit of
Yeah.
persuasion.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah.
working it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see, we got a response from somebody. So with the crust, what we did, well, sorry, Sally, we can process what we've done so far. So we made our crust and we put it into a food processor, but if you don't have a food processor, you can just grate your flour, add all of your ingredients, kind of push it all together. And then we put it in a bag while it was still pretty crumbly, into the fridge. Just a produce bag that we had, and let that sit for about 10 minutes. And then we peeled our apples, sliced them fairly thin, and then added all of our filling ingredients from our recipe card here, including like a zest of a lemon and some of the sugar and cinnamon and flour. So then when we took the pie crust out of the fridge, instead of rolling it out like the recipe said, we just kind of like dropped it into the pan that we're going to use, pressed it down, and we noticed that the crumbling that we initially saw kind of solidified once we started to work the crust a little bit. So what would you say in terms of thinness of the crust? I would say maybe like
We're probably around a 1/4 inch.
1/4 inch thin
Yeah.
on the bottom and then a little thicker on the edges.
Yep, a little bit thicker.
So yeah, if you want to just
That's kinda what
put
we're
your crust right into whatever dish you plan to use to cook the tart. We're using a cast iron, but you could use any sort of tart pan or pie pan, whatever worked for
Sure.
you.
Yeah. Cast, for people who don't use cast iron a lot, it's a really beautiful pan to cook in.
Mm-hmm.
Iron's not a very good insulator, so that makes it or a good conductor rather.
Yeah.
So since it's not a good conductor, that makes it better for baking.
Sounds good.
Yep. So for cornbread, like all kinds of stuff you can make in cast iron.
Perfect. Okay. So I think the next step would be adding our filling.
Okay.
So, oh, it looks so good.
Well, we're gonna do
Oh.
this. Unlike a pie, we're gonna just lay the apples in here.
Okay. And it looks like it's gonna end up looking really pretty. So you're laying them all individually into the
We're gonna go
tart.
We're gonna go like that, yeah.
Cool.
Or you could start in the middle and go that way too. Whatever works for you.
Yeah. So you're kind of just like setting them on each other.
Right.
Stacking them.
This is not going to be as thick as an apple pie. If you had an apple pie, you would need more fruit.
Mm-hmm.
But
This is great. I like the idea of a sweeter crust.
yeah, the suggestion was to have this with some ice cream too. So
Sounds tasty.
yeah.
And we might even have to do 2 rows depending on how many apples we've got, but
Oh yeah, we got a lot of fruit here, so we'll be fine.
okay. Have any of you guys made a tart like this before? I know I've made apple pies, but not nothing like this. I like the idea of stacking the apples. And this will look really pretty when it comes out. It will be similar to that photo that
And if it doesn't look pretty, we'll put a glaze on it to
oh yeah, it'll be shiny.
conceal our problems.
Awesome.
or just get a can of whipped cream and spread it all
Yeah.
over the top of it.
So you would say you're more of a cook than a baker, or you think you?
Yeah, I was never a pastry person, so at least professionally. People who are pastry cooks are amazing,
Mhm.
and it's like a whole nother culture in a professional kitchen.
Yeah.
I was with the people who like were former prisoners, cocaine addicts.
Oh my gosh.
Those guys were the ones
Complicated coworkers.
those are the ones I was. The pastry chefs definitely were different. We're not that.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot more like rules to abide by when it comes
I
to
mean,
pastry.
absolutely. So pastry, different sensibility. I mean, with both, you're trying to do things consistently, but pastry is can be very fussy
Mhm.
and precise, and um,
These look good. So it kind of becomes hard to spiral into the center. So I think you're doing a clever thing of just stacking.
so
stacking them.
we're gonna improvise here,
This is good. Just stack them whenever
depending.
possible.
Yeah, or
It'll look good.
you can dump them, or
Have you been to, speaking of pastry, have you been to Bake Lab?
I have. That's beautiful. What they
Yeah.
do over there is
Yeah.
really
They're really
nice.
beautiful
think that-
pastries. Has any of you been to Bake Lab yet? They do a lot of like croissant based pastries.
I think the pastry chef there was trained in New York City.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. I know I've heard that she travels all around the world doing pastry like master classes
Okay, well,
and competitions. I'm like, man,
her stuff's
Hey,
really
it
beautiful.
it looks good.
Sorry,
Yeah.
quick question from the behind kitchen.
Oh,
For the apple filling, the recipe says it's a half a cup white sugar. Sorry.
yeah, so it'll be one of your clear containers.
Yes, I see it. I kept looking at it, and to me it said a half a teaspoon, or a half, and I'm like, where the heck is that? Okay, thanks.
I got you. And then we'll save there's a little bit other, so there you have two containers of half cups of white sugar, and then you've got a smaller like dressing cup of the 2 tablespoons. You leave the 2 tablespoons out. We'll use that for the glaze when it's time. That will blend with the sugar. The 2 tablespoons of sugar will go with the apricot jam. But what you'll put in the filling is just the zest of a lemon, half a cup of white sugar, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and then the 2 tablespoons of flour. So that can just be mixed in.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions at this point? There's no right or wrong way to do this apple layering. This is just as
Ooh.
it suits you.
Sally, you're spot on. The dash of salt, we forgot.
What's that?
Did we add the dash of salt?
Yes.
Okay, so the dash of salt. Thank you, Sally. If you didn't add the dash of salt, you could kind of sprinkle it in.
Or omit it.
Or omit it. Okay.
Not tragedy.
Okay. Alyssa says, love Bake Lab. And we know, me too. I had if you haven't gone, it's on University and Lincoln in that one of those new high-rise residential areas. So initially I had no idea, but went there with a friend, and now I'm like, ooh, so good.
Yeah.
They do a caprese croissant.
Ooh,
That is
fancy.
just absolutely gorgeous. Ed was Ed saying, beautiful, mine is thrown in the pan, not so beautiful. That's okay, Ed, it's gonna taste beautiful.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So again, if you hadn't preheated your oven, now's a good time to do that. We have it at 350. As some of you know who have taken classes with us, our oven is always it's small and it's mighty. So we'll have to maybe check to make sure things are cooking right with our oven, just because it's a little bit more potent. And cooks
Right.
quicker.
And this is something for me, I've never cooked in this kitchen before. And every stove is different and every stovetop's different. And this is an induction one. So it could be you might be watching a total disaster unfold here.
We'll be okay.
Yeah.
We'll be okay.
My last home stove was 100 years old and I just finally replaced
Wow.
it and it had no thermostat in it. So
Oh my goodness. You just,
yeah.
like kind of had to eyeball it and
you get the sense of the weather of a stove, and it was a chamber stove and
oh,
the idea of chambers was their motto is cooking with the gas off because
oh,
it's extremely well insulated
okay.
and you would cook for big part of the way and then turn the oven off.
Interesting.
then-
like kind of use the
The residual heat would
Huh.
would finish it.
oh,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
looks gorgeous. Look at you.
All right.
How's everybody doing? I know your hands are probably in filling. We're drizzle the last of that syrup from the filling in on top. That looks great.
Yeah.
And then it seems that this will bake for around 35 minutes. So we might have to, depending, share the oven with the tart and spanakopita, but most likely
Probably
Probably
not.
not.
Probably
Okay.
the pace we're going, we'll be lucky to get the beef soup done.
So we might run a little over, but
All right.
you guys are with us for as long as you're with us, and we're glad to have you.
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
so our tart is ready for the oven. So
Okay.
we can just bring it there.
Da-da-da.
And ta-da. All right.
Okay.
Okay, and should I set a
Right.
timer?
Yeah.
Okay. Should we do 30?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do 30 and then the recipe says 35. So we'll assess.
Okay. And we still have the glaze part of this project to do too. So,
Right.
all right.
So, do you want to do the glaze now or the glaze later?
Let's do the glaze late. Well, yeah, we'll do it later.
Okay. So the
But-
glaze is really going to be simple. It's just, we're going to do that later, but that'll be in a separate saucepan, just heating up that jam and the 2 tablespoons of sugar, but we'll wait on that because we'll work on the spanakopita next. So, we're going to wipe our space down a little and we'll talk through some of the things that you'll need for spanakopita. Let me know if you want another cutting board. I'm happy to get.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
it's fine.
Okay.
We're good.
And I can get you a rag.
We don't even need this guy. Yeah, we could maybe clean up the processor.
All right, you guys let us know how you're doing. Millie says, looks like he sprinkled something on the apples after they were in the pan. So yeah, it was a leftover filling, the leftover liquid from the bowl from the filling.
Mhm.
So that's all that
Yeah,
was sprinkled in.
no tricks here. Nothing up our sleeves.
Alrighty, so we'll also be working with the food processor again to blend up the spinach and spanakopita filling. So again, for folks that don't have a food processor today, that's totally fine. You guys will probably just be chopping up your blanched spinach and adding your ingredients into a bowl. So we'll make sure there's modifications for you. So we're gonna rinse our
Just trying to clean the blade off here.
idea. I don't know. You don't have to.
What's that?
You don't have to. If you weren't planning to clean it, you don't have to.
Oh, we're gonna do it because we're gonna use it again.
Okay. So,
And you just got sugar and stuff in there. We probably,
Yeah.
you probably want to rinse it off.
Yeah, that's
It'll
true.
be,
That's
it'll
true.
go weird otherwise.
Okay, so I'll go over some of the things you'll need for the Spanakopita.
Perfect.
Is everybody more or less have their tart in the oven? You let me know.
Love to see pictures
So,
of their tarts too.
yeah, so we
just-
are waiting
just-
on the glaze. We're not putting the glaze on just yet. We're actually gonna wait until the end of when the tart is out of the oven to then put the glaze on. So sorry about that.
Yeah,
If you did want to put the glaze on ahead into the oven, that's fine too.
yeah, I'd be interested to see how it comes out. I was a little bit concerned that it might burn, or just disappear and and kind of vanish in the liquid.
I
especially.
see.
More of that. So
Okay.
it really wouldn't function as a glaze.
So for the Spanakopita, we made sure to thaw out your frozen dough. And we want, yeah, because it comes frozen, we wanted to make sure that it was pliable. You're gonna need a large casserole dish. Of any type. I think this is ceramic, or like almost, yeah, ceramic.
You could even do it on a sheet pan if you had one.
Sheet pan
Yeah,
works,
I mean, that's
casserole dish works. You're gonna need eggs. I'm gonna move the glaze away for a second.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. No problem, Carl. Okay, other things that you're gonna need, you're gonna need all of your spinach. There's a couple of people that got a bag and a container of spinach, but it all measures out to be exactly the same. You'll also need your 1.5 blocks of feta, your green onions, a lemon, peppermint, pepper, a 1/2 cup of olive oil, and the 2 teaspoons of dried dill. And then if you still have it, we will utilize the extra egg white from the tart.
And if you have the lemon that you zested, you could hang on to the lemon that you didn't zest,
Okay,
and we could just use
Okay,
this
cool.
guy.
cool. We'll just need 1 lemon.
Well-
And then the other thing that we we're gonna do to reuse our equipment is you will eventually need a soup pot for your soup. We are gonna use this to blanch some spinach first of all. So instead of having 2 different soup pans, we're just gonna need 1 for today's class. And let's see, there was a question. Roughly what dimensions for the casserole dish? I think like an 8 by 13, 8 by 12. It doesn't matter too much, but
So-
a little bit bigger. Like if you have a bigger one.
Yeah. So you could do it in this. You could also do it in, if you have a sheet pan like this, that would work too. The phyllo dough is pretty big. You'll find out
Yeah.
as you unroll it. It's 13 by 18, so it's
Oh yeah, that's right.
yeah.
It's huge.
So it's big,
Okay.
big sheets.
Okay. Which do you think that we're gonna have to chop it in half or
If you have,
we'll just see?
do you have a scissors in here?
We do.
Yeah, probably, you may need that.
Okay,
Trim it up a little bit.
okay. I think we have the scissors.
Okay. So, Spanakopita is, the people haven't had it before. It's very tasty. It's typical Greek snack. I guess it'd be like almost like it gets eaten as like a snack or an appetizer more than the main dish usually.
Mhm.
It's really rich.
Mm-hmm.
You're using a butter or olive oil with every single layer. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really tasty, but a little bit may you don't need giant pieces of it.
Right, right. It's like a savory pie.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. So good
yeah.
though. So I guess what would be the first step for the spanakopita?
So for the spanakopita, let's just chop our green onions, give them a good little wash first.
Okay.
And
Do you want them to get some water boiling for the spinach or
no,
not yet?
no,
Okay. So we're gonna work on prepping. So green onions, and how do you want the green onions prepped?
okay, so green onions, this part of them you don't use, the very end part.
Okay.
Not that it's poisonous, but not so delicious.
And then
I
Janet,
believe you stuck that at the ground, it would sprout another one.
yeah.
I think it would,
So we
actually.
got rid of the roots from the from the
Okay,
green onions. Janet had a question. Do we use all of the oil in the pan? So the olive oil that we gave you, I believe that will be a lot of it will be used to brush in between the phyllo layers.
exactly.
And then I'm not sure if we are leaving some, I know we have some butter, but I think that was all used for.
Yeah, so we're gonna use oil. You could use butter. If you were gonna use butter, you would melt a stick of butter and you'd be better off with unsalted butter than salted butter because salted butter has more water in it.
Okay.
The salt helps to keep the water
I didn't know that.
bound to the fat. So
Interesting.
yeah,
So then this half cup that we have of olive oil, we are gonna save like a tablespoon of olive oil for our soup. So,
oh, okay.
or if you have more olive oil, if you're an oil lover and you're cooking, you're always able to supplement more, but we have allotted a tablespoon of that olive oil to Spanakopita.
So for the onions, I'm slicing them pretty thin here.
Great.
I'm trying to show off, but you can do it one at a time too, if that's easier for you. And we're not gonna saute the green onions. They're a little milder than using white or yellow onions. We'll just use them raw.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna redact what I just said about the olive oil. So we will be using all of the half cup
Oh,
for this, because we do have we have a tablespoon of olive oil for our soup when it's time.
Oh, okay, phew.
And then Jan J says, good for stock, so the ends would be
Sure,
with the green onion of
absolutely,
stock.
along with all sorts of other carrot peels and celery and
So you might have some of that today from anything that we prep. So
Yeah.
you did all the whites and the green of the,
yeah,
and you did the full amount of all of the green onions that we gave you.
yeah,
So,
I just did them all.
oh,
But
that looks
it
great.
depends on how much you like green onions. You know, if this seems like too much or you don't like onions, they're optional. So you can use them all, use part of them.
So you
leave 'em out.
slice everything really thinly and then you're
I'm
just
just-
kind of going over them
I'm
and
just gonna chop them a little bit
break the
more.
rings up a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm just gonna chop them a little.
Okay.
It's for the fun of it. Give you guys some time.
And so there'll
So-
be no sauteing of these ingredients. We'll just, once we blanch the spinach, we'll just be combining all of the filling ingredients with the
Yeah.
spanakopita, which is great.
So for the spinach, I've done it both ways. You can actually just put this in without cooking it too. But we're gonna cook it a little
Okay.
bit first.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's a lot of spinach to start with, but once it's once it's blanched,
It shrinks really
It does.
fast. So I put a little bit of water in here.
okay.
You don't need much because the spinach is gonna make its own
So
water.
like maybe even like a half cup?
If that,
Okay.
so it's.
Quarter to a half cup of water.
Yeah, just
in your
enough to
stock
get it,
pot.
get it started.
Okay.
So, let's see.
Let me help with that. Yep, good. Let me actually. There you go. And then all the way up, we'll just. So we're
Alright.
gonna wanna boil this water, this quarter cup or half cup of water that we put in the stock pot.
Mhm,
And that is what we're gonna use to blanch our spinach.
mhm.
Okay,
You're right. Put a lid on it.
perfect.
See it going.
Elise says, for those of us with herb gardens, how much fresh dill and peppermint should we be substituting for dried?
Usually it's about three or to one, but just based on your taste. How much do you like that?
So 3 fresh to,
Yeah, like if it says a teaspoon of dry, then put a tablespoon of fresh,
yeah,
something like that.
yeah. I love fresh herbs, so
But
I always
or if you
overdo
like it, there's
I
So, and I would say it also depends on the time of year. So if you have an herb garden, you'll notice that the herbs taste different depending on how hot it is. And with year, peppermint is a lot less, gets more bitter as the season goes on. And as
Mm,
herbs change flavor. So in the springtime, you might want to use more and then use less of it as the summer goes on.
okay,
Just taste it first.
yeah,
Because they can be really different. Like you'd be surprised how strong oregano can get in the summertime.
yeah. It loves the heat.
Yeah, yeah. It also just gets almost sharp tasting.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
So
like super spicy sometimes.
yeah.
I was gonna say that, like, for me, I kind of overdo it on my fresh herbs. Like, I can never have enough parsley, cilantro, dill,
Mm,
but oregano is where I've gone wrong.
Really?
Sometimes like overdoing fresh
Mhm.
oregano, but it can be, I mean, they're all are so good, but
Thyme is the one that annoys me.
yeah,
Because it's
thyme
so
too.
small.
Yeah,
It's just,
thyme can,
I always grow it and then get very annoyed
uh-huh,
when I
takes
harvest it. 'Cause it's like
forever.
such tiny little
I
leaves.
know,
But no,
yeah.
it's great that you have an herb garden and
Yeah, feel free to use fresh herbs and then,
yeah, I know I have fresh mint in my garden right now.
yeah.
So it's just, that's, but I think oregano is.
Oregano usually, I've got some oregano.
Overwinter too, yeah.
Yeah, it's not as potent
Let's-
after a long winter.
Up, the water's doing its thing.
Okay,
So we're gonna dump,
so our water is just simmering a little bit, so we're just putting all of our spinach in. And how do they know when it's
spinach in?
blanched?
Good question. So what we're doing is I'm gonna get it to the point where where it wilts.
Okay.
And gonna put the lid on here and steam it a little bit, but I'm not going to really cook the life out of it.
Okay.
'Cause I want it to stay green. It'll be, bright green. I cook it too much, it'll just go dark.
Mhm.
And it's going to cook in the Spanakopita
Right,
too.
right, okay.
So, yeah, yeah, go
Do
ahead.
they need anything, once the spinach is fully blanched and they need to remove it from the liquid, will they need to strain it or will we just kind of scoop it out?
You could put it into a colander if you want to, or I think we're just going to try to use this.
Okay,
Just spoon it out
slotted
and
spoon.
then put it right into the
Okay.
food processor.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, we're gonna use a slotted spoon when the spinach is ready, but we're not there yet. And then there are people that won't have a food processor, so will they
So-
need to chop up their spinach a little bit?
So if you don't have a food processor, you're going to need to chop it by hand.
Oh, so you'll chop the spinach once it's blanched.
And you could do it either way.
Okay,
So it may be easier to do it first, actually.
okay,
Uh,
yeah. so they
or
don't-
it'll be hot,
it might be-
or let it cool down and
Okay.
then chop it.
So for those of you that haven't put, for those of you without a food processor that haven't put your spinach in, it's possible it might be easier for you to chop up your spinach a little bit. That way you don't have to chop it after and it's hot. So let me know if that makes sense.
Yeah, you can do it either way. The only thing we're concerned about is just that it'll be very hot when it comes out. So
Yeah.
you'll, Um,
Okay,
okay,
so we've got our 1.5 blocks of feta.
right, so we're looking at the spinach just to see where it's at right now. So it's just starting to cook. It's interesting. It smells almost like seafood, weirdly. You smell get
Yeah.
that smell?
Yeah,
Weirdly, it has a kind of a briny smell
Uh-huh.
to it. Don't you think?
yeah,
What is that from?
I don't
I
know.
have to look read Harold McGee. Any of you are interested in food science, the best book is here at the co-op. I'll show it to you.
Oh, really? We have it in our library?
We have it here, and this book is incredible.
Oh, I need to read that.
The best book.
Okay,
If you're
Carol
cur-
McGee, I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, if you are curious about food science or questions or just he is like every curious cook should have that in their kitchen.
Oh, I love it.
Okay. So notice it's cooking down already. It's like that giant thing is starting to
My gosh, I know.
cook way down. So it's kind of collapsing, which is what
Okay.
we're going for. You could actually turn it off. Turn the
Okay,
the
we'll turn
power
it off. So yeah, as soon as it's starting to turn that like bright green
That-
and wilted.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna let that be there for a second.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Oh, the apple pie is starting to smell too.
Yeah. Okay, so for the feta, we've unwrapped it. How are you just cutting it into cubes?
Yeah, we're gonna cut this up just so as if it's a big block, it'll be hard for the food processor to attack it. So I'm doing something almost like what we did with the butter, where we're just cutting it, kind of cubing it like
Mhm.
that. Like that,
Awesome.
right?
I love feta. It's one of my
Yeah,
favorite cheeses. Okay, so we're putting the feta and the green onions into the food processor. If you don't have a food processor, you'd probably just put it into a bowl, right?
yeah, well,
And
you're
then
gonna,
maybe crumbled or cut out a
yeah,
little bit more.
everything's gonna have to be, then you'd want to chop it up.
Okay,
Yeah, it could be done that way, but, and probably, nobody in Greece, not every kitchen in Greece has a food processor.
oh yeah,
So,
I'm sure.
so yeah, so,
So if you feel
No.
like crumbling it, or I've even grated feta before.
yeah, this probably
Um,
would grade up pretty well.
Yeah. And
Okay,
then,
so,
just a second. So sorry, Sally. So how should we cut the feta if we don't have a food processor? So if you want to crumble it with your hands, or you could chop it pretty fine, or you could grate it, all of that, whatever you think would be best
mhm.
would work. And then Jan J said, could we use a blender?
I think you could use, it depends on the blender. I think that could work with a really good blender, like a Vitamix, it would work.
Uh-huh.
With a lot of blenders, I think it would just,
Get
you'd have-
stuck.
yeah, so it depends on what you got. You
Yeah.
can give it a try.
If you did
But-
want to just use a blender, maybe just test it out and then mix it so that the bottom doesn't become so fully blended then
Yeah,
the
you might
top
want to
is-
do a little bit of it more,
Oh, yeah.
like smaller parts at a time,
Mhm.
that you're trying with a blender. It's a brilliant idea, though. Okay.
Okay, so what else?
We're gonna-
So we got our
sorry,
spinach, our chopped green onions, our feta,
Black pepper.
black pepper. We've got dried dill,
Yeah.
and then we've also got the dried peppermint,
Dried
which
pepper.
we have in the bulk section. So if you ever need it,
Oh, and so
you
good
can have it
too.
for tea or culinary
Oh,
purposes.
absolutely. You're gonna make your stomach feel so good.
Yeah, and then are we waiting for the eggs
So
for later?
yeah, so we're gonna put those in now.
Okay,
So we're gonna just put the egg in with the white
okay.
that we already had,
So 2 large eggs
And a
that we're
half-
adding to the white,
because we had it left over.
right?
So.
Okay.
So that goes in here.
All right.
And we have, maybe you don't have lemon in this recipe. Oh, that's in the soup. Okay,
Okay.
it's cool.
That smells good. I think it was the dill that I'm really, that smells really good.
You're such a good, you're so good at this.
It just shocked me.
All right, so now we're gonna pulse this up.
So we're pulsing until we don't want like a paste, but
Yeah,
here, I'll show. It's like just kind of a
That's-
fine chop.
oh,
Yeah,
so-
it looks really good.
it looks very pretty.
Yeah.
All right,
So you could do this by hand with your knife, chopping up your spinach, or you can use the food processor or the blender, but you
Yeah.
don't need a full puree.
but if you do with a knife, it'll be a little bit more rustic, but
Yeah.
that's okay too.
Yeah.
Let's be different.
All right.
Okay. All right,
So on to the phyllo.
on to the fun part.
Yeah.
All right.
Has anyone not used phyllo dough before? I'm excited for you. My mom always makes she calls it what is it, like a coffee cake, but she makes it with phyllo
That's neat.
and like a cream cheese and jam filling, always for Christmas time.
All right. So phyllo dough can be really nice to work with, or it can be really cranky. It doesn't keep forever. So if you have leftover phyllo, and you might have leftover phyllo when we
Okay.
make this recipe, be good to use it you can freeze it, but I would use it within a few weeks probably.
Yeah, good idea.
It dries out and then it's garbage.
So if you have a little brush, that will
Yeah.
be really helpful
Yeah.
for this. If they don't,
If you don't have a pastry brush, it's going to be tricky. I would say substitutions for a brush would be your hand.
yeah,
You
Yeah.
kind of would have to be
that makes sense.
something that could, but it's going to be tough because this stuff is really thin and it tears easily.
Uh-huh.
So,
So, are there anyone that doesn't have a brush? I'd recommend dedicating one of your hands for oiling we want to oil the pan that you're going to use.
bring in a small child.
Oil painting on your weekend. But yeah, if you don't have a brush, then we're gonna,
All right.
then you're gonna need to use your hands for distributing the oil. We're gonna take a look at our tarts. It's looking like it's almost done.
I'd say so. So, it's a convection oven, so it cooks a little faster. I say it's done.
Ooh, oh, but it looks like it has that like gooey filling.
Yeah,
I think it looks done.
I think it's done.
Or we can reduce, yeah.
I think it's done.
Okay,
So,
let me get something for you.
oh, thank you.
Yeah. So we're gonna take our tart out.
So one thing I'd say to people at home, if you have gloves, always look to see if this part is worn out. This often wears out fastest, and you will burn yourself
Yeah, and
there. But these are fine.
hopefully. Hopefully.
Yes, but be
Yeah,
mindful. All
okay.
right,
Oh my goodness.
that's pretty.
That looks so delicious.
All right, and we're gonna let this cool before we
Yeah,
do the
I wanted to
glaze.
set it. Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
And then we'll put the glaze on.
So this is a good opportunity to check your tarts. If you have a convection oven.
How long does it take?
So actually it's a minute before 30 minutes.
Okay, so it is about 30.
Yeah, so
So-
that's good.
So one tip is if you can smell it, check it. Like,
Yeah.
you can smell something that's a really good time, because ovens
Yeah.
are different. Even if you think you know what you're doing,
Uh-huh.
it may be faster that day.
Mm-hmm. And my oven at home is so slow. So
Mhm.
it might take, if your oven usually takes a little bit longer, yours might be like 45. But
Mhm.
our apples aren't fully you know, broken down, they're still holding their shape, and they
Just-
still have a good texture, it looks like.
That's what we want for a tart.
Yeah.
So it's a little different than a pie where you're really cooking
Uh-huh.
the fruit down, or cook for an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
But
I'm just so excited by the filling. You can see like the juice and syrup that's
that'll
formed.
just that'll set up and
Yeah.
I know you guys are really skeptical about the crust,
Oh man.
but it's going to be really delicious.
You caught that at the right time, because I think maybe another 5 minutes and
Mhm.
our
It'd-
crust
it'd
would have
been
gotten
too dark.
black.
Yeah.
So take a look and see what your crust color is, because you might have to keep an eye on that. Okay, so back to the phyllo. So we oiled the casserole dish.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll let
Here,
you.
we'll do
Here
it
you
this
go.
way.
Perfect. So we oiled the casserole dish. And now we're gonna unroll and unveil the phyllo.
This is sort of it's Purim starts tonight. This is
Oh.
sort of like a Torah. of
Yeah.
what we're doing
Oh,
here.
I love that. That's
Open
right.
up.
Yeah, my boyfriend's Jewish.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, we should have had hamantaschen for desserts tonight.
We'll have to do that next time.
That'd be fun.
Okay. So I realized I actually don't have a scissor, so
Oh,
I don't know if that will be an issue.
yeah, we'll adjust.
Okay. So just be delicate with this. I'm so glad that we thawed it out, because there's
Very,
nothing
very-
worse than
So-
having phyllo dough that's frozen.
So this is really nice.
All
It
right.
looks good.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do. is take-
So Chris, your question was, were you at 350 or 375? So we were at 350 for our tart. And
But there was a convection oven, so
Yeah.
it cooks, I think it acts like it's cooking hot.
right. So it's possible still, I
That-
don't remember what we said for the tart.
I think we said 375, maybe?
Maybe it's under here, I think, actually.
Oops.
we go, here we
There we go.
We found it.
Covered up by the.
Okay, so most people are operating with a 375, but
That's
we
the-
tend to lower our temperatures just because the convection oven. So,
Right.
so 375, most people have for the tart, but 350 also works too.
Yeah, and don't believe it, just because it says, your oven may not really be at that temperature, and
Okay.
it's at different temperatures in different parts of the oven too, so. Yeah, just check. Best thing is to check it.
And we can actually keep our oven on preheating for our Spanakopita. I'll put it back on 350
Thank you.
so that
I
it's
know,
hot when we
perfect.
need it. So let me know where your tarts are at. I'm so curious.
Yeah, I want to
And-
see some pictures.
Yeah, we would love any pictures
Okay.
at the end.
So because
Okay.
this is so big, what I did is I have about a half of a sheet here,
Okay.
and then we're gonna fold it over.
Okay. That's a good idea.
So.
And you're oiling, you're brushing it with olive oil every time.
Every time it gets thin layer of olive oil.
I saw this amazing Greek chef. Greek cook. He must have been maybe like 100 years old.
Uh-huh.
And he was rolling out his own homemade phyllo dough. And I was like, oh, that's
Yeah,
fantastic. Because it's a level of thinness. You're supposed to be able to see through it.
so this is very much like for people who would make strudel, I think you could use it as like a strudel dough, but my grandmother was Hungarian, and she would
Oh,
supposedly she could roll it out thin enough that you could see through it.
wow.
Yeah.
So as we're oiling, we're just layering it over the side of one of them, and then we'll fold it over the oiled phyllo.
Yeah, and when you put it in, the phyllo dough should just kind of sigh, go like
Nice,
that.
nice.
So,
And the oil layers will make it extra crispy, and
right.
because I have tried to cheat with phyllo dough, and
Mm.
I call it phyllo dough and phyllo dough, so pardon me
Yeah.
if I'm constantly switching off, but I have done it where I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna do the layers it's just not the same without having the oil in between it. It really adds so much more flavor, and the texture is different when you don't put oil in between the layers. It's kind of like this crispy, dry.
And it's gonna taste different depending on the olive oil you have too.
Mhm.
So, I
Mm,
mean, butter would probably maybe a little more consistent
mhm.
tasting, but olive oils can taste really different.
So how many layers do you think
I
you
was
want to
thinking I'm
do?
gonna do six sheets.
Okay,
Which will be
12.
12 layers.
Cool.
And then we're gonna do about the same on the top.
Okay. Everybody doing okay? Are your tarts coming out of the oven? Now would be about 35 minutes. So definitely check your tart if you haven't. I love that we were able to do a bunch of different recipes, including a dessert, because that's just so fun.
Very fun. Good spring dish.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just at Sola Grazia Farm.
Oh.
For those of you that don't know, they are one of our closest produce farms. And we work with them in a lot of different ways. But they have like 5 greenhouses right now that are just like bursting at the seams of all these greens.
Mm.
A lot of them are going to the farmers market, but yeah, their collard greens and their kale and was all just looking so great. We had our first the kale is actually sprouting what's called napini. Have you ever had that? It's like kale on its, I think it's potentially its second year, or when it overwinters,
Oh, yeah,
it
sure.
will make that little broccoli like rosette in the middle. And so we had some yesterday, and but yeah, it's so nice to work with spring greens.
So good. Makes such a difference.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're really lucky to live in a community with so much fresh local
Mhm.
produce.
Mhm.
When I first moved here, there was a farmer's market in downtown Champaign, and the idea of local produce was bananas. Because people would go, they would drive to the wholesale market in St. Louis, and farmers would have,
Growing bananas.
no, they would not grow them. They were just, but there was no,
Oh my
there
God.
was one local grower, but mostly it was just, occasionally there would be something sort of local, like someone would go up to Michigan and bring back
Yeah.
blueberries.
Right.
But it mostly was just, there really wasn't, there weren't people doing that.
There's a that's funny. Yeah. There is a folklore story that I've heard from old co-op days where I think it was right when we moved into the mall here. I think it was around like 2008, 2009. And I can't remember if it was Blue Moon or it was one of the farms that had a greenhouse, and they had a banana tree. And so they did
Whoa.
sell us bananas,
Oh, that's really
but it was
cool.
like $20 a pound. Everybody, I think there was only like 4 bananas that were actually sold,
They
but
were so
that was
excited.
the story of like once we did actually have local bananas.
It's
Oh my
amazing.
God. But yeah, I'm so glad we just tabulated all of the sales that we had for last year, and we had more than like $1.1 million sold for local and regional food
Wow,
to small farmers. So it's really great.
it's really great.
Okay. Oh, Elise, awesome.
Yeah.
Elise says that was Jeff from Meyer Farm. That's fantastic. So Meyer Farm, they've been around the farmers market for so long. They are now Jeff Meyer actually sold his farm to Ben and Molly. I think it's Ben Oberg and Molly, I forget her last name, but they do the Ben and Molly's farm. They've bought Meyer Farm. So they're at the farmers market. They're amazing. And there was a question, sorry,
Sure.
from someone about lemons. Let me just was a lemon supposed to go into the Spanakopita filling? We actually didn't put any lemon in the
I
Spanakopita.
don't think they've
And
had
it
it.
doesn't have it in the recipe.
Yeah,
If you did, it actually wouldn't hurt.
that'd be delicious.
That would be
but
really good. But we,
We're gonna save
um,
for those soup.
and then we also, the other question was also, should we have put the extra egg white in the filling? We did end up doing it. We had the leftover egg white from the tart, and we just put it in to our mixture. So if you have it still, you're welcome to add it.
No tragedy if you don't.
Yeah. Okay, so we did like about 6 layers.
Mhm,
Meaning we used 6 sheets of phyllo dough, but
mhm.
it's actually because we did halves,
Right, well,
it's 12. So this will be extra delicious. And then,
Go ahead.
yeah, now we're gonna add our filling. Are we just gonna kind of dump it in?
You're gonna dump it in.
All right. That looks so good. Ooh. And again, if you didn't have a food processor, it's no big deal. This recipe goes way back, way beyond processor food blades.
Yes.
So, and I've even made it when I didn't even chop it up. Like I've just had it whole, and it
Absolutely.
wasn't the same.
And it's kind of more the way it is in Greece too.
Yeah.
It seems like it's more like
Yeah,
not too fussy.
yeah.
But
That looks fantastic.
yeah,
Okay, so continue on.
continue on.
All right. And so it's likely that we won't use all of them.
No.
So you're welcome to kind of, well, so we're going to do another top layer of 6 phyllo dough sheets.
Mhm.
And yeah, we did give you parchment. I forgot what.
So the parchment was going to be for rolling out the. I don't think we needed the parchment for this.
Yeah,
one.
sorry about that. We actually didn't need the parchment for this kit because we decided to dump the crust into, it was going to be for the tart, for
But
rolling out the crust, but we didn't end up needing it.
But if you do want to use it, and you've got a tray that you're doing this on, you could bake this on a parchment paper too.
But the phyllo
I
and
guess
parchment.
you should end eating it though.
You might think the parchment is the phyllo dough by the end.
Yeah.
But yeah. Parchment paper is my new best friend, especially when you're roasted veggies. Like sometimes when I get home from work, I'm so tired that I'll I'm just gonna put everything in the oven and walk away. So I'll just throw veggies onto a sheet tray and spice them up. But parchment paper makes the cleanup so much easier.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, this looks awesome.
Yeah, I found that it was very helpful. I've been doing more gluten-free baking, and with the parchment paper, it was really nice. I made chocolate chip cookies with no gluten.
Ooh,
And
yeah,
baked it on there, and they came off much more easily.
that's a really clever idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still thinking about some class ideas to do with Carl, either this summer or fall. And we were thinking about a gluten-free class, because when we first met to plan about doing classes together, you brought me, was it like a chai muffin that you made that was just so delicious? That was gluten-free. Are there other types of classes that you guys are interested in that would always been wanting to learn certain recipes that you would like for either an in-person class or virtual class? Let us know. I'm always happy to take suggestions or find teachers. And we always are looking for other teachers. So if you're passionate about cooking and want to share recipes, you just reach out to me.
I'd like to do a bagels one sometime, or just deli stuff.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Nothing's better than a homemade bagel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just takes a little time that would be good for an in-person class because we could get the dough getting ready the day before,
That's the trick is, because some things don't throw together as easily as this.
Oh man, bagels
class.
though, there's nothing better than it is kind of sloppy sometimes. Like I've made them a lot with my boyfriend, and oh gosh, ladling them in, to boil them and then, but it's so fun and so worth it.
Oh,
By
it's
the
so much
end,
better too.
they're so much better and you just never realize how many bagels you could possibly eat in one day.
First thing I learned how to cook when I was 14, there's a recipe in the Chicago Tribune for pizza, for deep dish pizza. And that was really good because it had a dough and a tomato
Oh,
sauce and just basic stuff to learn. And
that sounds still
so
delicious.
so
Everybody loves their deep dish pizza.
yeah, that was a good one.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do like a raviolis class
Ooh.
because I think, but that it can be a little tricky, especially if you don't get the noodles sealed. You know, you have your filling missing. But raviolis has been one of my desires. So there's other types of ways that you can make the spanakopita with the phyllo dough where you kind of like roll them into triangles. Have you ever done that?
I have not done that. I've seen that done that way
Yeah,
though.
it's pretty good. They've also, I think
Uh-huh.
there's like I don't know if I'm saying it the right way, but kofta or some sort of they've done
Mhm.
like a ground beef or like ground
Mm.
lamb and then you
Oh, sure.
or even like a shepherd's pie, I think people have modified with phyllo dough.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of different ways. Also, I will say that if you have leftover phyllo, like this next week and you want to do something quick, what my mom does is she does a similar layering that you do for spanakopita, but this filling is just a container, a block of cream cheese that's been softened with little lemon juice and a little sugar and some lemon zest and then your favorite jam and you kind of dollop it in the middle and then you wrap your phyllo dough
Mm,
into the center and you just eat slices of it and it's such a good toasted kind of pastry.
sure. I mean, we could have used that apple filling that we just made if we chopped that up. And
Oh,
then,
uh-huh.
you could do like a kind of roll it up and make it a strudel, very like
Yeah,
apples, walnuts, maybe. Uh,
walnuts. That makes sense.
that'd be delicious.
Elise says, yes, a pasta class. We did one with Janie's Mill. This was, I think, 2020. I think it was one of our first virtual classes. Um, and we had someone from Janie's Mill come and teach a pasta class using
Ooh.
their special whole grains. Awesome, that's right. Okay, Elise says, yes, we did that class. Cool. Okay, I love it. Well, I'm
All
glad.
right, how's everybody doing with their
Oh
sem?
yeah. So how's everything going? Because I think we're finished, right?
We're ready to put this in the oven.
So how many layers are you on? Have you been past the filling yet, or are you still working?
There's about 4 layers left, so there'd probably be enough to do something with this.
Ooh, Lee says, next sponge should use a hand crank pasta roller. Okay, so I think we might, for time's sake, put ours in.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Are we on there?
so on our third layer of part 2, would love to see more savory vegetarian classes. Awesome.
Yep.
So we're putting our spanakopita in the oven, and then I think it is
So we,
takes
yeah, we still have some oil left over.
okay.
We
It
end
takes
up
about
use,
40. So we're probably gonna be running over just a little bit. But the soup doesn't take too long. But I just wanted to, you guys, you let us know however long you can stay. We're happy to have you. But if you have prior engagements, we get if you have to leave at class at 5. But we're gonna be working on the soup next.
soup.
And we're basically just gonna be following the recipe. So if you're still working on your spanakopita, that's totally fine. Let's see. Let me find that recipe.
Oops.
So if you want you can keep your phyllo dough and just put them back in the fridge for now. Okay.
Alright.
So we strained out the blanched spinach water. We're
Yeah,
gonna reuse the same container.
we decided not to put that in the soup.
Elise says 2 questions.
Sure.
Sorry, my phone keeps. 2 questions for soup. 1, did we drain and rinse the beans before using? And 2, if you gave us a large onion, should we use it all?
Depends on how much you like onions.
Yeah.
I like onions.
I love onions.
So yeah, the onion is pretty big. I'm gonna use it.
Okay.
And then as far as draining the beans go, I don't think we need to do that. I think
Okay.
we're gonna go ahead and just dump. Yeah, the cannellini beans are, they should be, I would use the whole can.
Okay, and won't
Yeah.
drain anything out?
No,
Okay.
no.
Yeah.
No, I do that with salad sometimes, like if the beans are, like if you're gonna get a can of black beans and put them in like a salad with rice and cheese or something like that, then strain them and rinse them. But for
Yeah.
soup, I would use the
Great,
whole thing.
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Millie. We're so glad to have you. We'll be recording this class, so if you didn't catch the soup, we'll make sure that you can watch it later. So I'll be sending everybody the recording. I'm so glad to have you. Okay, we're just getting ready for moving on to our soup. All right. So we've got our diced tomatoes, our cannellini beans. Have to say that a million times. We've got our 1 onion. We gave you guys a half a bunch of kale, a half a bunch of parsley, couple stalks of celery, a carrot, or if your carrot was really small, we gave you 2. 2 cloves, a russet potato, and some spices and oil.
Yeah, and if you have leftover oil, we may end up using that for
Great.
something. I think
Yeah,
we will.
that sounds good.
This seems a
Shy.
little spare for me.
Yeah,
Sorry, guys.
I use a lot. It's funny, my coworker Liz, who helps with the kids, sometimes when we're cooking together, she's like, wow, that was a lot of oil. I'm like, I know, but it's so nice.
It's so good.
So we're gonna just start prepping our vegetables, right? So
Yeah,
first step will be our onions.
we're gonna chop our onion.
Do we want like a regular dice, like a,
Yeah, I'm gonna do kind of a regular to fine
okay,
dice here. And this would be good in a stock for
Uh-huh.
sure, to peel.
good idea.
But we're not gonna make a stock right now. But
And then will we be peeling carrots
I'm
or
not gonna peel.
potato?
I'm not gonna peel either of
Yeah,
those
sounds
things.
good.
Okay.
All right. So we've got our onion.
Onion chopping. Onions, same thing I showed before, if you want
Yeah,
to. So you want to make sure your fingers are tucked in. The basic onion technique is to slice them one direction and then the other, but not into your hand if you can avoid it. And this you could do in a food processor too, if you're more comfortable. You could just chop it up in your processor.
perfect. So fine dice on your onion. And then let me get the recipe cards.
Did we hide it again?
Maybe.
I think it's making.
Oh
it
yeah,
here.
they're under there.
Okay, we got it right in
Okay.
the seat. Okay,
So we're gonna do our onion, our carrot, our celery, kale, and potato. Probably prepping all of that
right.
first and then chopping, or do you want to do your onion first and
I'm
then add to it?
I'm just gonna I'll do the onion, then I'm gonna wash up those other things and just get all the vegetables chopped up first. Oop.
Sounds good. How's everybody doing? You still working on your phyllo?
We see any pictures of any of the pies come out or the tarts?
Yeah, let me know. If you can, we would love to see any of your tarts. So feel free to show them on the screen. I'll keep an eye out.
I'm assuming these haven't been washed, right?
Mm-mm.
We'll wash these.
Yeah. Let's see, any tart photos?
Mm.
So we're gonna wash all of our potatoes and carrots and celery
Kale.
and kale. So here's a look at the fine dice from his onion.
Okay,
Great.
all right.
And then about the same size for the celery and the rest of the
Yeah.
vegetables, kind
So
of
we're
just
just to take off just a little bit of the very end there.
okay, not the
And
celery.
oops,
Oops,
maybe we'll just have one rib in there.
I'll wash it.
5-second rule. Okay. All right.
So you just took off the bottoms of both the carrots and the celery, and then you're kind of just slicing lengthwise on your carrots to be kind of into long quarters.
Yeah, we're just gonna do this and then we'll
Yeah.
chop these guys.
So overall, everything from your carrots to onion to celery and potato will all be about the same size.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
if fine dice is too much to do, just try and make them as even as possible. And then we're slicing our celery in half, maybe
so.
thirds.
Yeah, as well as
Look at this beautiful
let's
picture.
see.
Look at that.
Very
DHS. That looks
nice.
fantastic.
Yum,
Thanks for sending the photo.
yum. Get excited?
No. How long did it end up taking you? Did it take about 35 to 40 minutes or? I love it. I love it. Everybody's heart in the photo.
Yes.
And if you're willing to do pictures at the end, feel free to tag us on if you have a Facebook or Instagram. We would love to share all of your amazing dishes. That's always the funnest part
Yeah.
to see how everybody made something similar. So for the russet, he just sliced lengthwise on the potato like 3 or 4 times, and then you're just gonna dice them up.
Yep. And the idea is that having things be roughly the same sizes, that way they'll cook it roughly the same
Yeah.
amounts of time,
Totally.
roughly.
Mm-hmm. And for things like stew or pot roast, if you're really cooking it low and slow for a long time, you can, afford to do those big chunks.
Or put things in later in the
Yeah,
cooking process, like towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've certainly made the mistake of cooking vegetables for like 5 hours and there's like nothing left. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a syrup now.
Yeah. So for the kale, we're going to take the middle rib out because that's
Sounds good.
a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit.
So either
Fibrous.
cut the stem of the kale out, or I just sometimes rip it out with my.
Yeah, you could do it either way. So you could just do that too.
And then will you still chop it up a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna too.
All right. And then when for the process of like sauteing the vegetables, will we just add all of it all at once, or do you want to portion out?
So I think we're gonna do it all at once, but I'm gonna put, except for the kale, I'm gonna
Okay.
put the kale in last.
Okay,
Because that needs the least amount of cooking.
okay,
So I'm actually gonna put the kale in after I put the water or
Okay.
the stock in.
Okay.
yeah.
so the only edit that we're gonna do is, we're gonna leave out the kale until we tell you, until we start to get the broth going for the soup. So that way we just saute the onions, the carrot, celery, and the potato.
Right. So let's
Okay.
get this thing going.
All right, do we want high heat, medium heat? What do you think?
I think we're gonna, whatever this thing likes for sauteing, I think pretty high,
Okay,
but maybe three. Yeah,
like that.
Yeah,
We can just see. It will,
Yeah.
usually it starts out pretty hot
and then it cools
and then it
right
cools
down.
down. Yeah.
So we may need to turn it up a
Yeah.
little bit. I'm using my leftover oil here.
Okay. And then we didn't do garlic, but
Oh yeah, we're gonna put some garlic in too.
Okay.
So thanks for reminding me. So for garlic, I'm smashing it, peeling it. It's already spreading a little
so
bit.
we decided to use all the leftover oil that we had from the Spanakopita that we didn't use from this half cup container, as well as the one tablespoon.
Yeah,
All right. I might even wait. I might turn this off for a secin until, unless you're
okay.
done.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay.
We're good. I mean, if it catches on fire, then we're in trouble.
We'll switch it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so we forgot about the garlic, so we're just
We're just-
slicing that kind of roughly.
Yeah. I'm gonna put the garlic in. Sometimes I saute it, but because I don't trust this thing not to burn it, I'm just gonna put this aside with for a minute.
Okay, sounds good.
I'll put it with the parsley over here for a second.
Okay, so we're holding off on adding the garlic just because our soup pot might cook a lot faster than others. But if you want to add your garlic in with,
You can put it in with
With
the
the
oil, but
onions.
it could scorch it, and then we don't want to do that.
okay, so we're adding everything, our onions, carrot, celery, and potato into our oil. And you want that sizzle.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
And do you want them to be fully cooked? Or do you want them to be kind of like partially
You want
like-
it to be-
sauteed, you know?
Yeah, I like to get it to the point where the onions are clear. I think that's a good way to look.
Okay, yeah,
So, kind of thing to look for. If you taste the carrot and it tastes like it's not crunchy, that's a good spot.
Okay.
So, yeah,
This is great. And how's our Spanakopita? Let's take a look.
yeah, I don't smell it yet, so probably good. How's it going?
Ooh, it's doing good.
Yeah, so maybe, how are we time-wise for?
25, it says.
Oh, we've cooked, it's been in there 25?
Well, it's been in there for 15 minutes.
Okay, good, yeah.
So it has another 25 on the timer. Do you want me
Oh.
to reduce that a little?
I would reduce it a little bit, yeah,
Maybe like another 15?
yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay, so we're reducing our temperature on the Spanakopita just because we noticed it was a little brown on the top, but we'll take a look once we start to smell it. This looks good.
Yeah.
I love this oval shape on your pot.
Oh, yes, they're really nice. So this is an induction cooktop, which I cooked a little bit. I bought a hot plate one just
Yeah.
to see what it's like. This is a better than a hot
good,
plate one,
good.
yeah.
And so when do you do the seasoning part?
I'm gonna do it when I put the liquid in. I put the stock in.
Okay.
It's
That's a good idea.
picking up pretty good.
Hey, do you want it to be slowed down at all?
No.
Or is it-
Nope.
So you do want like a higher saute heat.
And if you do it, if you do it a little bit lower, that's okay too. Then I would put a lid on it
Mm-hmm,
and then just check on it.
mm-hmm.
And then you'd be kind of sauteing it and steaming it at the same
Uh-huh.
time.
That works. It looks so good. And I think we gave the option of if you do want to have it partially immersed and blended, you can do that, but we're not going to do it for this one.
Yeah.
But if people, I do love my immersion blender. Like if you ever like making like tomato soups or pasta sauces where it's really fine, that immersion blender is just so nice to,
These up so easily too.
yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest inventions.
Mhm. Looks great.
The onions are just starting to get a little more clear.
Okay. That's good.
I think we can throw
Mm.
the garlic in now.
Yum. Okay, we're adding the garlic. That looks awesome. How's it smelling in your kitchen? I bet good. See, everybody's working hard. There's little thumbnails of everybody stirring with their hands
Yeah.
moving constantly. Good job, you guys.
Yeah,
You're doing good.
people are working so hard.
We are
All right.
making a big meal. And
All right.
hopefully you'll have a lot of leftovers. So tomorrow's dinners and lunch will be already
Yeah,
taken care of.
I'm gonna put in a little bit of broth, so just
Okay.
as we go here. So
You
it's
think like a quarter cup or half cup
yeah,
of broth?
maybe like yeah, 3/4 of a cup or so. And I'm gonna put the lid on just for let it
Okay.
steam for a second.
Okay. So we put 3/4 cup of the vegetable broth in and put the lid on.
It's
And then we'll
I'm gonna open up some of this other stuff.
good. Open up our tomatoes and our canned beans. And would you recommend any other beans for the soup, or is it better to have this kind of buttery type of bean?
I think whatever you got around. I think cannellinis are really nice for this,
Cool.
but you could. I can't think of a bean that would be bad in it.
Oh, okay.
You know, but I think this is one of the nicest ones. And it's really typical of northern Italy.
Oh,
Is cannellini beans, and I think that the white beans tend to not get used as much
Mhm.
in North America.
Yeah.
I like them.
No, me too. Me too.
Yeah,
I think they make a really good soup. And it's
Yeah.
nice that you'll be able to add the liquid from the tomatoes and then the beans,
Mhm.
because that will also increase your liquid content in your soup.
Let's take a look. Just make sure this hasn't cooked off yet. It's looking good. Looking good.
How are you? Okay. Are you okay with the temperature?
I'm good with the temperature.
Okay,
How are you with the
Yeah,
temperature?
love it. Yeah. I always got to check with my teachers because, sometimes this induction burner can be like, okay, wow, that's a little too much there.
I just checked the potato and they're still pretty solid. So I'm going to put a little bit more stock in.
Okay.
And reason I'm doing it this way rather than dumping it all at once is once you put all the liquid in, it slows the cooking down, and you don't want to be boiling the whole thing.
Right. Okay. So little at a time.
At this point.
So that way it will steam the potatoes so that you're closer to
Exactly
finishing.
where we want it to be. And this is probably a good time to put in the thyme. And do we have a bay leaf somewhere? I forget.
Had a bay leaf.
Did it disappear on us?
Did it go? See. Here we go.
We got it.
Hiding.
Oh yeah, our bay leaf.
Okay, so
We're gonna put in
bay
our herbs here
Nice.
now too.
okay.
And bay leaves are not edible. I mean, they're edible and that they won't, you can put it in there. You don't want to eat it.
Yeah,
So you want to make sure you
take it
take it
out.
out.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we'll
So-
add the salt, the
Pepper.
thyme, and chili flakes.
Yeah. You can just put that stuff in now
Okay, nice,
and,
perfect.
okay.
Smells good.
Yeah, I'm gonna chop up this parsley.
Do you do the stems or no stems?
Stems are really actually better in stock.
Okay,
I'm gonna take this off the,
we did curly parsley just because it was more available than the flat leaf. I personally love the flat leaf,
I do too, but
but curly
Uh,
curly works.
it's really. I grew up thinking parsley was just for putting as a garnish on plates, so,
Yeah.
yeah, and then parsley is good in just about, in so many things.
Mhm.
Really makes a difference, and it's a fresh herb you can get year round,
Yeah,
in the grocery stores. And
we'd had I think in 2019 we had someone, she's one of the main cooks for Neros Gyros in Champagne, and she's from Syria, and she was sharing tabbouleh recipe. So it was like, she was like, tabbouleh in my country is always half parsley and half bulgur. And she was all about parsley. She's like,
yeah,
it's the lifeblood of her culture. And then she's like, it's so good for everything. It's like so good for your blood and a lot of benefits for parsley. So
yeah.
that changed the game for me. How's everybody doing? You all working on your prep still for your soup? So I'm happy to kind of talk out the process again. We just chopped up all of our onion, carrot, celery, garlic, kale, and potato. We left out the kale. We still haven't put it in yet,
Yeah.
but we've just been sauteing our veggies, and we added all of our dried herbs and salt, and just a little bit, maybe like a cup or so of our stock, so that we've been kind of steaming the veggies so that they'll slowly get
A little bit more.
softer.
Yeah,
Will we probably add by the end all of the broth, you think?
we're gonna add that, and we're probably gonna need some water too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
It's great.
Okay,
Yummy.
all right.
So with the parsley, Carl has just taken off the stems for the most part, like the bigger stems.
Right.
But we still have some stems. And then
Yeah.
you'll just chop.
The really thick stuff will not break down in the soup.
Okay.
But this, but it would be great in a stock.
So for those of you that are planning to make a stock tomorrow, this will be perfect. So you're just kind of chopping the parsley up.
Mm-hmm. This can be done in a food processor too, but we're just doing it this way.
That's good. If you have any free time, maybe check your Spanakopita, see where it's at. Just if you haven't checked it so far, just to see what type of browning you have going on. Happy to check ours.
All right.
It's looking good.
Let's take a look.
Need more time?
I would say,
A little longer?
let's turn the oven off and leave it in for another few minutes.
Okay. So ours is a little golden brown on the top, so we're gonna turn ours off.
How many minutes do we?
We did, I think, a total of, 10 plus, we did a total of like 25 minutes.
Let's leave it in for another 5 minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
There I go.
All right.
All right. Okay. let's put in, I think we can put in the rest of the stock.
Okay. So good.
Yeah, maybe we'll see whether we need water or not.
Okay.
And it's gonna put in
Hmm.
the kale.
Okay. So we put in the rest of the broth and all the chopped kale.
And we're gonna put the tomatoes in,
Tomatoes
just like that. And the beans,
and the beans. Beans with the juice, with the liquid.
the whole shebang, the whole shebang.
That's
gonna-
so colorful.
We're gonna wait on the parsley and lemon juice.
Okay, sounds good.
And we're gonna
Mm.
let this come up to a simmer.
Okay.
And this would probably be good for this to cook for 20 to 30 minutes, maybe.
Okay, sure.
And then we'll put the lemon juice in the
Parsley in,
parsley at the
and
end.
then just check for salt if we need it.
Yep, exactly. So
Okay, should we do the?
let's lower the temperature
Okay,
so
you got it.
to where it's going to be a simmer.
Nice.
And
I will start here and then
220.
we'll just to catch it to the heat that we need it, and then we'll lower it probably to like 190.
Sounds great.
Okay.
All
How's
right.
everybody doing? Let us know where you're at stages, soup stage wise. We're just gonna wipe down, oopsie,
Right.
and probably get a saucepan out for our glaze. All right.
Oops, excuse me.
We're actually doing pretty good. So sorry we went a little over it. I hope you're still okay. If you do have to jet, I guess the summary would be that the soup would just cook for another like 20-ish minutes. You would add your parsley and your lemon juice.
Yep.
And then the next thing that we're gonna do is make the glaze for our tart, which is just heating up the jam and the sugar.
Right.
So that was the 5 minutes on a spanakopita. Do we want to keep it going, or do you want to?
Take a look here. I think we're ready to take it out.
Okay, right.
Okay.
So we'll show you our spanakopita. It's actually done. We're doing it based on color. I'll have
And
you.
it looks like the thing that we want to make sure is that the eggs have
Cooked.
cooked through.
I see.
And it looks like they have. It's funny.
Oh.
And this will also keep cooking outside of the oven. So
Oh
you just want.
my goodness.
Da-da-da.
Oh, I love the sound of crunching and eating spanakopita, like the crust is so nice. All right, so feel free to check on your spanakopita. Let me know where you're at. Chris says, "Yeah, I'm good cooking soup on my own. We'll watch you prep tart glaze." Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
So probably just a little bitty pan for this.
Yeah, actually, I found
Where'd you get-
depending on if you needed this one or something smaller.
I was thinking something smaller.
Okay, yeah.
This one maybe.
So you have a choice of just any saucepan or a saute pan.
I think it's like just a little
Yeah,
saute
great.
pan.
because the glaze isn't really gonna
Oops.
require too much volume space. And is there any tricks for the glaze?
No, the original idea when this was going to be a pear tart was to put a little bit of brandy in here.
Ah,
And if you've got some brandy at home that you want to put like a little bit in, like maybe a couple teaspoons, that'd be fun, but you don't have to.
cool.
So we're gonna probably want this at
And middle button, cool. And then,
Okay, oh, right. 160, yeah. Let's see what that does.
it has some, I think it's okay.
Yeah, we don't want to burn it. We want basically this to,
We're putting in the jam and the sugar. We're keeping it on low heat in this little saucepan.
we're gonna decide whether we want to strain it or not.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna see how it cooks, and I don't know how lumpy this is gonna be. So let's see what it does.
Okay.
I don't think it's gonna be too lumpy. So, all right,
No, it always gets, it's so funny how every time we start a pan, it just gets so hot so quick. But then it
So-
slows down. See how it's like,
yeah, so yeah,
I feel like it's some sort of like surface tension or something. It's like,
yeah, it gets very excited.
okay, so yeah, we're putting in the jam and the 2 teaspoons of sugar. So let me know if that makes sense. Oh, Jan J says, what about a couple teaspoons of bourbon in the glaze?
That might be tasty.
Yeah.
I would, yeah. I'd say start with half that much and then taste it.
Yeah.
And make sure you might want to make sure you cook the booze too,
Okay, I
because it'll taste a little
think there'll be a
Less-
kick.
less strong.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's great. Bourbon sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Nice. And do you like it thick?
I'm gonna put a little bit of water in,
Okay.
there, just a little bit.
Maybe like a teaspoon, tablespoon, or?
Yeah.
Okay, just a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of water. We just added just to thin it out because we noticed it was getting thick.
Yeah. You guys who are adding the booze, that'll kind of take the place of this. Okay.
And you're just using, I like that you're using your pastry brush.
Yeah, it's a perfect thing for stirring.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And the sugar is cooking in with this too.
Okay, yeah.
And there's already a lot of sugar in
Mhm.
jam. So I think we're good, Sarah.
Great. I'll turn this off.
Okay.
All right. And then we've got our amazing tart. So
Okay.
excited by this.
Okay.
And then any way of doing it, you're just gonna brush it on.
I'm just gonna brush it on, make it look.
Okay. So if you didn't have a pastry brush, just use a like spatula or something. But yeah, that looks
You
so
see,
nice.
it adds
Adds a little
bit of
color.
color
Mhm.
to it.
Mm-hmm. That's lovely.
This also will keep it from drying out
Uh-huh.
too. And when it's in the shop window, people will want to buy it.
But it's nice actually to see the filling liquid underneath the apples
Mm.
still there.
Yeah, they should still taste like apples, not just be mush.
There's a part of me that wants to try that flour technique for pie because I just wonder if
Oh,
sometimes with your filling,
Oh, what do you usually do?
I don't ever put flour in with the pie filling.
Do you just use straight fruit?
Yeah, my mom has done tapioca, like
Oh, sure.
tapioca balls, but that's usually what she recommends. But
Mm-hmm.
I've always just done fruit because I do like it a little bit runny, but
Oh, well,
and just letting it set as long as the pie you let it set and cool before eating, it's usually holds up. But I'm gonna have to do that flour trick. You can see the
Yeah.
crystals in the crust. That looks so
so it looks like we'll have some extra glaze, which is fine. Just if there's a little bit of extra, you can save it for your next tart.
Yeah.
Or your next thing you want to glaze.
perfect.
So
Or with your phyllo dough tomorrow morning or something.
actually, just put that in the phyllo.
Yeah.
Phyllo.
Yeah. I know.
Phyllo. Center of the
You know what?
universe.
Anybody know which one it is? Let's see.
All right.
Oh,
Ooh, that's looking nice.
probably increase this a little more.
Okay. So it's our soup.
Nice.
So yeah, we could bring it up a little bit so we
Okay.
could just get up to like a little simmer, low simmer.
Okay.
But Yeah, I think that's the basic idea.
Beautiful.
And do you have a strainer?
Yeah,
or-
we've got a citrus. Let's see.
Oh, wow. This has got everything you need here. Okay.
So we're just gonna, I'll do it the opposite way.
Oh, right, of course.
That's okay.
You don't have one of these things.
Okay, so we're doing a whole lemon or just a half?
Um,
I
we
usually
got
love
it. So
lemon.
let's do a
Yeah.
whole one.
Great. So whole lemon squeezed into your soup, and then we added, did we add the parsley? Not yet. Oh,
Yeah, I think that's it. And then we can just, we'll
yeah,
be done.
yeah,
It's just a,
great.
I still
Adding-
would let this cook a little bit, you
Okay.
guys, before you eat it. Just
Okay.
not a long time, but maybe low simmer for 10, 15 minutes, 20, would benefit it.
Mhm,
And
bring
then,
everything together.
yeah, it'll meld more and taste it and see if you want more salt or pepper
Mm-hmm.
or soy sauce. I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever.
How do you
Miso.
think about, is this a good simmer or do you?
It's great.
Okay, it might increase some. There we
Yeah.
go.
So
Keep it for a little bit. Great.
only
Okay.
20 minutes over.
No, yeah, 16. No
Yeah.
biggie.
We did it.
Yeah. So should we taste some things?
Sure. I would not taste the soup.
Not
Yeah.
the soup yet, unless you wanted to taste the salt level.
We could taste that. We could do that just to see where we're at.
This looks great.
I might put more salt in it.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
It's so good. The lemon really adds.
Mhm.
Yum. How's everything tasting so far? Have you tasted your soup for salt? And oh my gosh, our tart is looking so great. And the Spanakopita. It might be time to take your Spanakopita out. So we took ours out a little early, but I would say you want this golden crust color for yours. So let me know. Okay.
Are you happy with what we've accomplished?
Great job, Carl.
Thank you.
It all
Good
looks
job to you.
beautiful and amazing. Thanks everybody so much for coming to this class. I hope, let me know where you're at. We're happy to
Any questions
ask
or
any questions. But if you're all set, we can let you go.
We're like, have soup cooking, about to chop parsley and that kind of stuff. Haven't started the glaze. So a
Okay.
refresher on the glaze might be helpful.
Sure. Yeah. We so with the glaze was really just heating up our jam a little bit with the sugar.
yeah, about a teaspoon or so of water?
Yeah, just to thin it out.
Yeah, and if you wanted to put any alcohol in, you certainly could put in
Mhm.
a little bit of like a brandy would be good.
Yeah.
So would something like a Cointreau or like,
Ooh,
yeah,
that sounds great. I'll just
Grand
throw that in
Marnier.
mind. Oh man, the soup.
Calvados, if you had it for apple brandy.
Ooh. Yeah, if you've got any ice cream in the freezer.
Yeah, vanilla ice cream, I'd say would be the way to go. Definitely nothing too complicated.
Jan J and Shannon says the Spanakopita is taking forever. No, well, depending on your oven, you might need to keep cooking it, or you could increase it.
It
You
could take
increase
an
the heat.
hour
Yeah.
in a non-convection oven.
Uh-huh.
That's fine. It's don't worry about it.
Yeah, it can just stay in the oven. What you're really looking for is just like this golden brown crisp.
Mhm.
And like Carl said, you want to make sure that, I think anything that's been in this long in the oven, the egg has been cooked, but that's,
It's a
yeah.
custard, so it's like in the sense that you mix like a milk, a cheese, and an egg, and and you're baking the spinach custard or souffle
Ooh,
in the middle of a phyllo dough. So
ah,
it's got to want to make sure it's cooked through.
okay, that's a good point. And then have you do you recommend that it be served warm or
Yeah,
cold?
I would serve it, it's best warm.
Yeah, yeah,
But I would let it sit a little while before you cut into it.
yeah.
Just
And
so-
the phyllo dough is never the same the day after,
Not-
but if you put it in the oven,
That is delicious.
yeah,
That's still pretty good.
yeah, yeah, it can get soggy. Ooh, we got another photo. Thanks for sending it. That looks so good. And your
Nice.
oil, I love you
Nice.
perfectly oiled your phyllo dough. So that looks good. The sheets really have, they look really well done.
All
Great job.
right.
Great. And then Genevieve said, sorry, my phone keeps saying, she said, thank you for this. Looking forward to cooking this for Sunday family dinner. And Lena says, thank you for such delicious recipes and making dinner fun. Aw,
Oh,
you guys
thank
are
you.
so sweet.
Thank you. It was really fun for us.
Oh, we're happy to hang on. If anybody has questions or can we walk you through any of the steps that you haven't gone to? Yeah, you let us know. So, well, if you want, we could cut up a slice and you can taste your amazing Spanakopita.
Oh, for sure.
Thanks so much, Sally. Yeah, sorry about the email. We've had a couple of people not get the receive the Zoom link, and I think it's probably because we have blind carbon copied everybody. So I'm sorry about that, but I'm so glad that you were here. Oh, great, Mila, thanks. I want to say before everybody goes that we do these virtual classes every month. So a different menu every month. It comes with a meal kit. And so thank you again so much to Carl for coming up with this amazing recipes. And we've got another class that we're currently taking registration for. We just posted it, but it's the Italian class that we're doing with our new instructor, Julia Panago. And she's going to be teaching like a panzanella, which is it's almost like a salad, but with toasted sourdough bread, croutons, tomatoes, like a shallot and basil, lemon, garlic vinaigrette. So that will be really tasty. Yum. And then there's a asparagus brie risotto. So she's gonna melt the brie into the risotto after it's cooked and put some asparagus with it and wine. And then she's done this fancy recipe that she showed me, which is a lemongrass infused panna cotta with blueberry sauce. So that's actually the picture of the, you can't really see it, but she's got like these custards that she made. So it does have gelatin. So if anybody is vegetarian, we have an option to do, to replace it with agar agar. So if you want to try that, we have that option to replace it. But yeah, I will put everything into the chat and send you a reminder email with the link to this class, as well as the recording for today's class. So yeah, ooh, look at this. Oh, do we need a fork?
Sure.
This looks fantastic.
He's here.
Yeah. I might steal a bit too.
Oh, it's not stealing.
Oh man. Yeah, it is like a souffle.
Mm,
Whoa.
it's pretty good.
Perfect. Mmm.
The onions are really nice in there.
They are, but it's like perfectly salty.
Mm,
And is there lemon in there? No, but it tastes
no,
almost lemony.
Yeah.
Wow. Does anybody try their
Muppets were in the room.
yeah. Essence of lemon. Oh, that is so good. Yeah, the onions with it.
What did we put in
Right,
it?
the green onions.
I think it was the green onion. that
Yeah,
I don't usually use green onion, but it's.
that is like perfect.
Oh, and the dill and the peppermint is
Uh-huh.
nice too.
Oh,
If
I'm
you wanted
so
a
glad.
variation of this, you could put in chopped walnuts too and something like that.
That's a great idea. Ooh,
But-
chopped walnuts. Everybody, thank you. This was so fun, really fun and informative. Thanks so much. I'm so glad. And then, Sally says, how is best to store the spanakopita and apple tart? So,
Spanakopita, you could, there's no way to make it so this is going to stay super
crispy.
crisp tomorrow,
Mhm.
but it should stay fresh and, good to eat and reheat for at least couple days anyway.
Yeah,
And I would just put it in your refrigerator, and you put it in
yeah.
Tupperware, put foil, you can wrap it in foil.
Mhm.
Um,
And then,
but wait till it cools because it'll, if you wrap it up when it's hot, it's the moisture from the heat will super soak everything.
yeah, so wait until the spanakopita is fully cooled before wrapping it up for the fridge. I've done, like, say tomorrow when you want it again, I've put it back, like maybe pieces like this, back in the oven and just heat it up that way, and it will kind of crisp up the top a little bit.
Better than a microwave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you could do microwave too.
Yeah. Toaster ovens are amazing for stuff like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
People forget that they can be really good, handy little ovens too.
Yes, Neela, you're so right. She said air fryer. I have one.
Yeah.
A neighbor gave me her. She was upgrading her air fryer, and I got one for free. So I know everybody doesn't always have the equipment, every single fancy tool, but the air fryer is perfect for this type of thing where it like it's basically like a mini broiler, so it will make everything crisp up.
Yeah.
That is delicious. I'm so excited. And I kind of want to try the tart too. I'm really curious about that crust.
Let's do that. Next thing.
Are there any like lingering questions that you have? I want to make sure that you guys have what you need. Wow. Oh my goodness.
This is where you want like a triangle one, but
That's awesome.
there we go.
Oh man. Here, I'll take a little one too if you don't mind.
No, this is for you.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, you try it.
Let me go.
You guys gotta try it. Let us know how it tastes. See, I think someone commented. So sorry. Chris said storing the tart until tomorrow loosely covered. So tart, I think you could, it depends on what your preference is. Some people keep their pies out on the counter for a day or two, and so it doesn't harden up so much. So I personally do that. Some people, if they're by the book, they'll put it right back into the fridge, covered. So either one.
Try this.
And then I'm so glad, Sarah. So glad that you were able to come. And then Aaliyah, I'm so sorry to have missed you for the tart part. Let me go through it really quick for you. I think they were one of the folks that didn't get the Zoom link. So sorry about that. But let me walk you through the tart. So basically if you have a food processor, we blended the it was like the sugar, the flour, and the butter together. And then we didn't add any liquid. It was really crumbly. It was almost like sand.
It had egg.
Oh, it had egg.
So it had
Yes.
2 egg yolks, well, essentially, because one whole egg and 1 egg yolk.
That's right.
And that was the only liquid. And
right.
If you look at it, you can see the crust is really yellow because of the extra egg yolk in there.
And for about like 10 minutes. So after we blended that all together with the egg yolk, and the egg with the flour, butter, and sugar, we got it to like a really crumbly state. We put it into a produce bag or any sort of bag, put it in the fridge for like 10 minutes, and then worked on our filling, which was just peeling our apples, slicing the apples off the core and slicing them into like 1/8 of an inch slices. And then What else? We added like all of our filling ingredients into a bowl with
Sugar,
those,
flour,
cinnamon, mixed
salt,
that all together.
lemon juice.
And then
Zest.
we figured out which pan we were going to use, and instead of rolling out the crust because it was so crumbly, we just plopped the crust right into the stainless or the cast iron pan and kind of like smushed the crust around until it formed about an inch of a border on the edges and was about maybe like a quarter of an inch crust thick. And then added Carl did something really fancy, so you don't have to do this, where you could just add all of the apples into the tart, but he like individually layered them into this kind of like spiral pattern. And then we cooked it without the filling, or sorry, we cooked it without any of the jam glaze for about 30 minutes. Some people were at like 40 or 45 minutes. So you're just going to want to keep an eye out for the browning on your crust. And then we just did the glaze for it, which was just heating up the jam
You let it
and
cool and then
the
did
sugar.
the glaze, right?
And so we added the glaze. I guess the only difference was we added the glaze after it was the tart was fully cooked. So let me know if that makes sense. And Shari says, thank you for your patience with the 2 cooks, 1 food processor kitchen. Our Spanakopita looks great and the soup is cooking. We're not sure about our tarts, but we'll see. That's okay. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will turn out.
There'll be, if there are any mistakes, they'll be delicious to eat.
Yeah, yeah, you can't really ruin. I think the only way that the tarts wouldn't work out would be if your crust burnt. But
Mhm.
even if I've done this, I learned the hard way that even if you have like seared or scorched edges of your crust, you can just kind of cut that out. But yeah, I'm so glad. Okay, everybody. Well, let me know if there's any lingering questions, but we'll let you have the rest of your weekend. And we're just so thankful for you taking the time to cook with us today. And I'll send you a recording of this class, as well as any upcoming classes that we have available that if you're interested in registering for. But enjoy, and thank you, Carl, so much for all the planning and the amazing recipes you shared. And it all turned out so good.
You're
And-
welcome. Thank you, Sarah, for this amazing
Yeah,
hosting and
sure.
organizing.
I'm so glad. And our soup is looking really great. And I think we'll be having some soon. Oh, good. Aaliyah says, thank you for the tart cliff notes. We will try it. Everything else was awesome. So good. Okay, well, you guys take care and have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, and if you have
Thanks,
ideas
guys.
for another class, just let us know.
Aw, you guys are the
Thank you.
best. Yeah, and we'll have Carl back for more classes. So feel free to shoot me emails of any ideas or of different classes you would like to take. And we can try and make it work. Okay, we'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Good
Aaliyah.
night. Have a good weekend.